You're about to be really pissed at them, and let me tell you why. They've made some major changes to their canned corn. I'm going to point out 5 of these things, and the 5th one, you might never shop at Walmart again. So here's an older can of corn from my pantry, and we're going to compare the two with this newer can of corn, okay? Number 1, it says that it is picked and grown on the same day. It has this green little great for you label here. Over here it says that it's from Arkansas, has 45 calories. What else is it? Oh, and it's gluten-free. Okay, let's compare that to the second can. By the way, the biggest difference, the second can is a product of Thailand. Looking at the nutritional information, we went from 45 calories to 90 calories. There's more sodium, there's more carbs. Apparently it's no longer picked and packaged on the same day like this one, and it's no longer gluten-free. It also lost that great for you tag. Let me tell you why. On this new can of corn from Walmart, there's a health warning. Let's read it. Warning, consuming this product can expose you to chemicals, including lead, which are known in the state of California to cause cancer, birth defects, or other reproductive harm.
All right, so these are some great observations, valid questions, but does it mean that they're poisoning you? Let's go through some of these differences in these labels. I don't work for Walmart. I don't know for sure. I still have some questions for them, but these are just some educated guesses on why these labels might be different. So a large retailer like Walmart probably uses a lot of different suppliers and manufacturing facilities for a product like canned corn. So this first difference that she pointed out was this label that said picked and packed on the same day. That is not present on the new label. Just because they removed it doesn't mean that's still not true, but also it just could be a difference in manufacturers, and maybe that's not always the case, and so they decided to take that label off for wherever this one is being produced. But that does not mean that this one is poison. All right, if we zoom in, we see some nutritional differences, which I'll get into in a second. We see that they are both distributed in Arkansas. What she was mentioning on this one was the distribution address. That is the same here. This one now says product of Thailand, so that is a country of origin labeling. All right, so now let's look at the differences in nutrition. So something like corn nutritional value is going to be variable. It's going to change based on variety, where it's grown, seasons. There are many different things that would impact the nutrition of something like corn. So obviously I don't know for sure how they're getting these values and how they're getting these values, but based on different manufacturing facilities, they could be one facility sending the actual product into a lab to get the nutrition evaluated, and maybe that's how they came up with this one, let's say. Alternatively, those values could be from a database like this, where, for example, the USDA uses historical data derived from analysis, calculations, and published literature to come up with nutritional values for many different foods. So if we look up canned yellow sweet corn here, we get these values, and the serving size on that can was 125 grams, so you would get something similar to that second can. So I don't know for sure why these are so different, but those are some possibilities as to why those could be different. In addition, there could be a different amount of corn to water in either of these, so that would affect the nutritionals as well. Maybe Walmart could even respond and explain to us why these are so different. Valid questions, valid concerns, but again, those things don't mean that this one is poison. All right, so this better for you label was also taken off of this new one. I'm not sure why that is, but if you look at the requirements for that better for you label, this one does actually meet those requirements still. I thought maybe it was because of the sodium, but for this requirement, it has to be under 380 milligrams of sodium per serving, and that one had 300 milligrams. So I guess they just decided to take that label off of the package. I'm not sure why. All right, so now the last thing, which I've covered many times, is this Prop 65 label that is required in California. So this label, as I've discussed before, does not actually help consumers assess risk. I've talked before about how lead can be in the soil, and therefore it might be found in some fruits and vegetables. These are the Prop 65 safe harbor levels for lead. So you'd think as a consumer that a product would only have this label if it has above these levels of lead, but that's not true. So the thing that's happening with this label is that companies are just putting it on their product because they don't want to get sued. Because even if the levels were to be below those levels required for this label, they could potentially get sued if there was any trace of lead in the product. And it would be their burden of proof to show that it's below those levels, but that costs money, that costs time, and it's easier sometimes just to put this label on there. It's not telling the consumer really anything helpful. And this is why this label is on so many things in California. It's really just to cover their butts and to make sure that they don't get sued. Not to mention that these levels are set extremely conservatively, as well, as I've talked about before. This maximum allowable dose level is set at 1/1000th of the no observable effects level. So again, even if it was above that level and it would warrant this label, that does not mean that it is all of a sudden toxic or poison. And in actuality, both of these products could have the same level. It's just that this Prop 65 label would be required in California, but not any other state. So none of these things show that this one is toxic, whereas this one isn't. It could be just differences in manufacturing facilities, different suppliers. There's a gluten-free label on this one where there's not on this one, and that could be due to different manufacturers as well. They may have taken the label off of this one if it's being made at a facility where there's the potential for cross-contamination. I'd love there to be more transparency and for Walmart to actually respond about this stuff. These are just some educated guesses on my part as to why there might be these differences, but it'd be great if they could respond too.